Security! Get this man out of here before I call the police! The branch manager's voice cut through the marble lobby like a blade. Marcus Williams hadn't even spoken yet. His crime? Breathing while black in a designer suit that cost more than her monthly salary. Phones emerged from purses. Whispers rippled through the lunch crowd. The young woman by the ATM hit record, capturing every word for TikTok. None of them knew they were filming the most catastrophic 13 minutes in corporate history. Because while Patricia Henderson was dialing 911 to report a threatening individual, she had no clue she was staring at the signature on her own paycheck. The name printed on every business card in her desk drawer. The face that would decide her fate in exactly 12 minutes. Have you ever watched someone destroy themselves with their own prejudice? Marcus Williams pushed through the revolving glass doors like he owned the place. Because he did. Navy Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's rent. Italian leather briefcase that whispered money with every step. The kind of quiet confidence that comes from signing billion-dollar deals before breakfast. He approached the VIP counter where crystal nameplates gleamed under chandeliers dripping with Austrian crystal. The marble floor beneath his feet had been imported from Italy. Every detail screamed exclusivity, power, wealth. "Good morning. I need immediate access to my account files." The blonde teller looked up from her manicured nails. Her professionally whitened smile died like a flower touched by frost. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. 1 heartbeat, 2, 3, long enough for the security cameras to capture her face, transforming from welcome to suspicion to outright hostility. "I'm sorry, what?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the classical music trickling from hidden speakers. "My account files," Marcus repeated, each syllable measured and precise. "There's an urgent financial matter requiring immediate attention." The teller's eyes performed a full-body scan that felt like being stripped naked in public. Her gaze lingered on his skin color like a customs agent examining contraband. Her colleague, a brunette with dead eyes, leaned over with the hunger of a vulture spotting roadkill. "Sir," the blonde began, injecting enough condescension into that single word to poison a well. "Are you absolutely certain you're in the correct establishment?" The question detonated across the lobby like a flashbang grenade. 23 conversations died simultaneously. Coffee cups froze halfway to shocked lips. The businessman reading Forbes lowered his magazine with the slow horror of witnessing an execution. Marcus felt every pair of eyes dissect him like a laboratory specimen. "I'm precisely where I need to be," he replied, his voice carrying the kind of calm that precedes earthquakes. The brunette teller practically vibrated with malicious glee. Her stage whisper sliced through the marble cathedral. "Another one trying to scam his way into premium services. They think we're stupid." That pronoun hung in the perfumed air like a noose. Around the lobby, smartphones materialized faster than roaches when lights go out. The young woman by the ATM hit record with predatory speed, her eyes gleaming with viral video potential. "Ladies," Marcus said, his tone so controlled it was terrifying, "I require immediate access to your branch manager." The blonde teller's laugh could have shattered the crystal chandelier. "Our manager exclusively handles accounts with 7-figure balances, sir. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the payday loan establishment 6 blocks away?" That's when Patricia Henderson emerged from her glass fortress. 7 years commanding this branch like a general ruling conquered territory. Customer service awards covering her walls like scalps. A woman who could smell financial status from 50 yards and had never, ever been wrong about reading people. Her Louboutin heels struck marble with the precision of a metronome counting down to execution. Each click announced her dominance, her authority, her absolute certainty that she was about to exterminate this disruption. "What appears to be the difficulty?" she asked, though her Arctic tone suggested she'd already pronounced judgment. The blonde teller nearly orgasmed with relief. This individual claims he requires access to high-value account documentation. Patricia's smile could have flash-frozen hell itself. Fascinating. Sir, I'll need comprehensive verification, government identification, social security documentation, bank statements from the past 6 months, and a detailed explanation of exactly what business you believe you have here. Marcus reached into his jacket with deliberate slowness. As his wallet emerged, something caught the light like captured lightning. A flash of obsidian metal. The corner of a card bearing platinum edging and microscopic engravings that only 12 people in the city were authorized to possess. He placed his driver's license on the marble counter with the soft click of a chess piece claiming checkmate. Patricia examined it like forensic evidence at a murder scene. "Marcus Williams," she pronounced, transforming his name into an indictment. "Mr. Williams, what I cannot comprehend is why a man of your particular demographic believes he possesses business requiring executive-level intervention." The words exploded through the lobby like shrapnel from a social grenade. The Forbes reader's Patek Philippe watch froze mid-air. The elderly socialite's Van Cleef necklace trembled as she gasped audibly. Even Thompson, the security guard who'd witnessed 15 years of human ugliness, visibly flinched. Behind them, the TikTok generation whispered into their phones like war correspondents reporting from a battlefield. "This is absolutely insane. We're watching discrimination happen in real time at First National Bank." Marcus remained motionless as marble. "Ms. Henderson, I believe we have a fundamental misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding, Mr. Williams, is your delusion that you belong in this establishment." Patricia's voice crescendoed like an opera singer hitting her death note. "This is First National's flagship branch. We serve Fortune 500 CEOs, federal judges, generational wealth, not individuals seeking charity or attempting to perpetrate check fraud." The lobby had transformed into a mausoleum. 23 witnesses, 4 accomplices, 2 security guards, and 1 architect of her own destruction, all frozen in a tableau of American racism performing in high definition. Marcus's phone pulsed with an incoming message. The screen lit up with text, visible to anyone within reading distance. "Boardroom prepared. All directors confirmed." Patricia's eyes locked onto his phone like a heat-seeking missile. "Sir, eliminate that distraction immediately. You're disturbing our legitimate clientele and creating an unsafe environment." That's when Marcus Williams smiled. Not broadly, not threateningly, just a microscopic curve of lips that somehow shifted the molecular structure of the room itself, like watching gravity reverse. "Ms. Henderson," he said, his voice now carrying harmonics that made every person present lean forward unconsciously. "Perhaps it's time for that private conversation." From his briefcase, he extracted a single manila folder. As it opened, Patricia glimpsed letterhead that made her cardiovascular system attempt immediate evacuation. Marcus closed the folder before comprehension could fully dawn. "Your office or the boardroom, Ms. Henderson? The choice is yours." Patricia Henderson's world began to fracture like glass under pressure. The manila folder in Marcus Williams's hands radiated menace. She'd glimpsed that letterhead. Official, embossed, impossibly familiar, but her mind rejected what her eyes had registered. Self-preservation demanded denial. "Your office," she managed, her voice betraying the first hairline crack in her armor. "Wise choice." Marcus closed his briefcase with surgical precision. Around them, the marble lobby had transformed into a coliseum. 23 pairs of eyes tracked their movement like predators watching wounded prey stumble toward inevitable slaughter. The TikTok girl's whisper carried across the cathedral silence. "Oh my God, they're going private. This is about to explode." Her video had already hit 15,000 views and climbing. The comments section metastasized with viral fury. "Someone identify this racist manager. First National about to lose millions. This man better sue them into bankruptcy." screen recording everything before they delete. Patricia's Louboutins clicked against marble like a countdown to execution. Each step toward her glass office felt like walking a plank over shark-infested waters. Behind them, the blonde teller grabbed her colleague's wrist with fingernails that drew blood. "Did you see that folder?" she hissed, her voice pitched higher than a dog whistle. "What if we just what?" the brunette snapped, but her bravado cracked like cheap veneer. Marcus followed Patricia into her sanctuary of ego and awards. Customer service plaques lined the walls like scalps. Family photos projected false warmth. Motivational posters about excellence and integrity would soon become tombstones marking the death of her career. Patricia sealed the door, but glass walls offered zero sanctuary. Every gesture, every micro-expression, every moment of her professional disintegration remained visible to the growing mob outside. "Mr. Williams," she began, desperately attempting to resurrect her managerial authority. "Perhaps we can resolve this misunderstanding privately. Can we?" Marcus opened the manila folder with the ceremony of a priest performing last rites. Patricia's eyes locked onto the letterhead like a deer staring into headlights. Her brain processed the words, First National Bank, Executive Communications. But the signature at the bottom made her cardiovascular system attempt immediate evacuation. "This document," Marcus said with the calm of a surgeon explaining terminal diagnosis, "concerns systematic discrimination patterns across our branch network." That pronoun struck Patricia like a physical blow. She gripped her desk edge, knuckles bleaching white as bone. Outside her glass cage, the crowd multiplied like bacteria. Upper-floor customers descended, drawn by whispers spreading through the building faster than wildfire. The businessman abandoned his Wall Street Journal entirely. The elderly socialite pressed against the glass like a child at an execution. Even the bronze eagles adorning the lobby seemed to lean forward, anticipating carnage. Thompson, the security guard, shifted nervously by the entrance. His radio erupted. "Thompson, status report! Social media's lighting up about some incident." He keyed his mic with trembling fingers. "Situation escalating, sir. May need the full team." "How many people you got there?" Thompson scanned the lobby. The crowd had doubled. Phones everywhere. "Approximately 40 witnesses, sir, and counting." Inside the glass fishbowl, Patricia was drowning in slow motion. "Mr. Williams," she whispered, her voice disintegrating like paper in acid. "I need to understand exactly who you are." Marcus studied her with the clinical interest of an entomologist examining a particularly fascinating specimen. "I'm the man you just humiliated in front of 40 witnesses, 6 security cameras, and," he checked his phone, 73,000 social media viewers. The number hit Patricia like a sledgehammer to the solar plexus. 73,000. The TikTok girl's video had achieved escape velocity. Comments flooded in faster than her phone could display them. The view counter spun like a slot machine hitting jackpot. 74K, 78K, 82K. News outlets were already picking up the story. Local reporters dispatched, legal experts offering commentary, civil rights organizations issuing statements. Patricia's personal phone erupted with notifications. Her sister, her mother, her college roommate. Everyone she'd ever known was watching her professional suicide broadcast in high definition. "This can't be happening," she muttered, staring at her device like it had transformed into a venomous snake. "But it is happening," Marcus replied with the patience of a teacher explaining basic mathematics to a struggling student. "And it's happening because you made a choice. Multiple choices, actually." He withdrew a second folder from his briefcase, thicker than the first, more ominous. "These are discrimination complaints filed against your branch in the past 18 months. Would you like to guess how many?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish suffocating on dry land. 67 complaints, Ms. Henderson. 67 human beings who were judged, humiliated, and driven away based solely on your staff's prejudices. Each number fell like a hammer blow on the coffin of her career. Maria Santos, denied business banking services because she didn't look entrepreneurial. DeMarco Johnson, accused of check fraud when depositing his Microsoft paycheck. Dr. Sarah Kim, told she should try the community branch despite having a Harvard medical degree and a 7-figure net worth. The names created a symphony of shame. Patricia recognized every case, had personally dismissed every complaint, had convinced herself each decision was justified, professional, necessary. 67 people, Ms. Henderson. How much business did this branch lose? How many relationships were destroyed? How many lives were damaged by systematic prejudice operating under your direct supervision? Patricia's world wasn't just crumbling. It was being surgically dissected by the truth of her own actions. Marcus's phone buzzed. The caller ID made him pause, and for the first time, his expression shifted into something resembling anticipation. He answered immediately. "Yes, I've seen the video. Yes, I'm in the branch currently. Actually, I'm sitting across from the branch manager as we speak." Patricia heard her title and felt her soul attempt to abandon her body through the nearest exit. Marcus listened intently, his expression growing more severe with each passing second. "Understood. Yes, the full board needs to be briefed immediately. Emergency session, conference room A." He paused, looking directly at Patricia with eyes that held no mercy. "And yes, Ms. Henderson will be joining us. This conversation requires institutional attention." He ended the call and returned his phone to his jacket pocket with the deliberate care of a gunslinger holstering a weapon after a duel. Outside the glass office, the crowd had swollen to nearly 60 people. Phones everywhere, cameras recording every angle. The lobby had transformed into a media circus with Patricia Henderson as the main attraction in her own professional funeral. The blonde teller pressed her face against the glass, watching Patricia's expression disintegrate in real time. "Look at her," she whispered to her colleague. "She looks like she's seen death itself." Marcus stood slowly, gathering his files with the methodical precision of a prosecutor preparing for closing arguments. "Ms. Henderson," he said, his voice carrying harmonics that made every person within earshot lean forward unconsciously, "you're about to receive the most expensive education in corporate accountability this industry has ever witnessed." Patricia's chair creaked as she attempted to stand on legs that felt like overcooked pasta. Where are we going?" Marcus smiled, that small, terrifying smile that had been haunting her nightmares since this conversation began. "The boardroom, Ms. Henderson. It's time you met some very important people." The elevator ride to the 23rd floor lasted exactly 47 seconds. 47 seconds of suffocating silence that felt like descending into hell's deepest circle. Patricia Henderson pressed herself against the polished brass wall, watching floor numbers climb like a countdown to her own execution. Her reflection stared back, mascara streaking, foundation cracking like drought-damaged earth, the face of a woman watching her soul leave her body in real time. Marcus Williams stood beside her with the stillness of an apex predator who knows the prey has nowhere left to run. His breathing remained steady, his posture relaxed. His expression held the terrifying calm of a man who owned not just this elevator, but every molecule of air she was desperately trying to breathe. The numbers climbed: 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. "Ms. Henderson," Marcus said, his voice softer than velvet and deadlier than cyanide. "Before those doors open, I need you to understand something with crystal clarity." Patricia's throat constricted like a python's embrace. What happened downstairs wasn't just discrimination. It was a masterpiece of institutional racism performed in ultra-high definition and broadcast to 300,000 viewers. You didn't humiliate one customer. You gutted this organization's reputation with surgical precision. The elevator doors opened like the mouth of a dragon. The executive floor was Mount Olympus made manifest. Hand-carved mahogany panels lined corridors wide enough for kings to parade through. Original Rothkos and Pollocks adorned walls like windows into other dimensions. The carpet beneath their feet had been woven by Belgian artisans and cost more per square foot than most people earned in a month. But Patricia noticed none of this opulence. Her universe had collapsed to the sound of Marcus's footsteps, echoing like gunshots, and the thunderous pounding of her heart, which felt like it might detonate from pure terror. They passed offices belonging to financial gods whose names moved markets, doors bearing nameplates that represented more power than Patricia had ever dreamed of touching. Each threshold they crossed brought her closer to a reckoning that would redefine the concept of professional destruction. At the corridor's end, double doors crafted from Brazilian rosewood guarded the inner sanctum where her fate would be pronounced with mathematical precision. Marcus paused at those doors, his hand caressing handles that gleamed like molten gold. "Ms. Henderson, in approximately 15 seconds, you're going to discover why this moment will be studied in business schools for the next 50 years. Are you prepared to become a cautionary tale?" Patricia's voice emerged as barely a whisper. I still don't understand." "Understanding is coming." Marcus pushed open the doors with the ceremony of an executioner revealing the gallows. The boardroom was the Vatican of capitalism. A table carved from a single piece of 1,000-year-old Indonesian teak dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs that cost more than Lamborghinis. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a godlike view of the city sprawling below like an empire awaiting commands. And seated around that table were the 12 most dangerous people in American finance. Victoria Anderson, whose investment decisions could topple governments before breakfast. Robert Sullivan, former Federal Reserve chairman whose whispered words moved trillions. Sarah Martinez, the legal assassin who'd rewritten banking law with her bare hands. James Crawford, the federal prosecutor who'd sent titans to federal prison like a farmer harvesting wheat. 12 economic predators. 12 people who controlled more wealth than most nations. 12 individuals whose combined power could reshape reality itself. They looked up as Marcus entered, their expressions shifting from professional courtesy to confusion as they noticed Patricia following like a lamb being led to slaughter. "Marcus," Victoria Anderson said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd never been refused anything in her life. "We've all seen the video. Please tell us you're not the victim in that footage." Patricia's brain experienced complete system failure. Marcus was the victim, which meant he was... The realization hit her like a freight train loaded with liquid nitrogen. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice filling the boardroom like the voice of God announcing Judgment Day, "I present Patricia Henderson, manager of our flagship downtown branch." The temperature plummeted to absolute zero. Patricia felt 12 pairs of eyes lock onto her like heat-seeking missiles acquiring their target. These weren't executives. They were apex predators who'd built skyscrapers from the bones of people exactly like her. "Ms. Henderson," Marcus continued with the ceremonial precision of a high priest performing ritual sacrifice, "meet the board of directors of First National Bank." The words detonated in Patricia's skull like atomic bombs. Board of directors. His board of directors. Her knees buckled. Only desperate grip on the doorframe prevented her complete collapse, as the magnitude of her catastrophe finally penetrated her consciousness like acid eating through steel. "No," she whispered, the word escaping like steam from a ruptured pipe. "No, no, no, you can't be." "I'm Marcus Williams," he replied, moving to the head of the table where a throne of leather and authority waited. "Chief Executive Officer of First National Bank." He gestured toward the brass nameplate gleaming in afternoon sunlight. "Marcus Williams, Chief Executive Officer." Patricia's vision exploded into white-hot static. Reality fractured like glass struck by lightning as her brain attempted to process information that violated every law of her universe. The man she'd humiliated, threatened with arrest, discriminated against in front of hundreds of witnesses, her ultimate boss, the signature on every corporate communication, the face that appeared on annual reports, the person who could destroy her with less effort than swatting a fly. "Oh, God," she whispered, and the words echoed in the cathedral boardroom like blasphemy in a church. "Oh, sweet Jesus! Oh, God! Oh, God!" Marcus settled into his chair like a king claiming his birthright. Around the table, 12 faces registered expressions ranging from volcanic fury to barely restrained homicidal intent. Robert Sullivan's face had turned the color of fresh blood. "Mr. Williams, please tell me you weren't actually threatened with police action in your own goddamn building." "I was threatened with arrest," Marcus confirmed with surgical precision, "by Ms. Henderson, in front of 73 witnesses, while attempting to conduct routine banking business in casual attire." Sarah Martinez leaned forward like a shark scenting blood. "And this entire incident was recorded?" "Multiple angles. Professional quality. Currently approaching 400,000 views with exponential growth." The number hit the boardroom like a tactical nuclear strike. 400,000 people had watched their CEO being racially profiled by his own employee. 400,000 witnesses to systematic discrimination operating under their corporate logo. 400,000 pieces of evidence in the most expensive lawsuit in banking history. "Ms. Henderson," Victoria Anderson's voice could have frozen the surface of the sun, "explain to us immediately why you refused service to our chief executive officer." Patricia's mouth worked like a fish dying on dry land. Her vocal cords had seized. No explanation existed in any language that could justify the unjustifiable. I couldn't have known. He looked how? James Crawford's prosecutorial instincts engaged, like weapon systems coming online. Patricia realized she was about to articulate her racism in front of 12 people who collectively possessed the power to erase her from existence. "Different," she finally croaked. "Different how, specifically?" Crawford pressed, his voice dissecting her like a scalpel. Patricia's face crumpled as she understood the trap. Any answer would be an admission of racial bias. Silence would be an admission of guilt. "Ms. Henderson," Marcus said softly, his voice now carrying harmonics that made the chandelier crystals vibrate. "You discriminated against me because I'm black. In 2024, in my own building, while wearing the uniform of this institution." Each word fell like a sledgehammer, destroying the foundation of her existence. That discrimination was witnessed, recorded, and broadcast to nearly 500,000 viewers. You've created the most catastrophic public relations disaster in banking history. You've exposed systematic racism operating under our logo. You've potentially cost this institution billions in lost business, legal settlements, and reputational annihilation. Patricia swayed like a skyscraper in an earthquake, her entire foundation liquefied. Around the table, 12 of the most ruthless people in American finance studied her with expressions that promised swift, merciless, biblical justice. Marcus Williams, the man she'd tried to have arrested, smiled that small, apocalyptic smile one final time. "Ms. Henderson, congratulations. You've just earned your PhD in corporate destruction." The boardroom fell silent as a tomb at midnight. 12 titans of American finance sat motionless, their collective fury so dense it seemed to consume oxygen. Patricia Henderson clung to her chair like a shipwreck survivor grasping driftwood, her breathing shallow and desperate. Marcus Williams opened his laptop with surgical precision. The screen's blue glow painted his face like digital war paint as he began Patricia's professional execution. "Before we discuss Ms. Henderson's future," he said, his voice carrying the weight of divine judgment, "let's examine the financial carnage she's created." The wall-mounted screen flickered to life. Numbers appeared that made several board members audibly gasp. $847 million in market cap, evaporated like morning mist. stock price plummeting 7.2% since her video went viral. Social media impressions climbing past 2.3 million with 94% negative sentiment. Patricia stared at the numbers like a mathematician trying to solve her own death equation. 800 million, Robert Sullivan repeated, each word dropping like a stone into still water. Ms. Henderson, your bigotry has cost this institution nearly $1 billion in exactly 4 hours. Patricia's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, producing only strangled whispers that might have been prayers to gods who'd already abandoned her. Marcus clicked to reveal more devastating data. Federal civil rights violations with potential damages reaching 200 million. Title VII claims with unlimited punitive exposure. FDIC regulatory fines starting at 25 million. State violations adding another 75 million in liability. Conservative estimates place our legal exposure at $400 million, Marcus said with the calm of a surgeon explaining terminal diagnosis. That assumes we can contain the hemorrhaging, which becomes more difficult every second this video continues spreading. Sarah Martinez leaned forward like a shark, detecting blood. Marcus, are we looking at the largest discrimination settlement in banking history? We're looking at the largest discrimination settlement in American corporate history, he replied. Ms. Henderson hasn't just broken records, she's obliterated them. The next revelation made Patricia emit a sound like air escaping from punctured lungs. Customer defection projections showed 2,847 high-value accounts at risk. Average account value of $1.2 million. Potential deposit loss of $3.4 billion with annual revenue impact of $127 million. Victoria Anderson's voice could have frozen liquid helium. Ms. Henderson, your racism has potentially cost us $3.5 billion in deposits. Do you comprehend the magnitude of that number? Patricia tried to speak but produced only sounds that barely qualified as human language. It means, Anderson continued, her whisper somehow more terrifying than screaming, that your prejudice has caused more financial damage than the entire 2008 banking crisis. Marcus revealed the regulatory nightmare Patricia had unleashed. 7 federal agencies investigating, 14 state banking departments launching probes, mandatory discrimination audits across all 847 branches, 5-year compliance monitoring with possible board restructuring. The Department of Justice considering a pattern and practice investigation of their entire network. James Crawford studied the data with predatory intensity. Marcus, how many congressional representatives are demanding hearings? 3 so far, but the number's climbing hourly. Senator Williams from the Banking Committee called personally. She wants to make this a case study in institutional racism. Patricia made a strangled sound that might have been her soul departing her body. Ms. Henderson, Crawford said, his prosecutorial instincts fully weaponized, do you understand that your actions have triggered the largest civil rights investigation in banking history? But the final revelation shattered what remained of Patricia's sanity. The viral numbers were astronomical and accelerating. 8.7 million video views across all platforms, 247 news articles and counting, international coverage spanning 89 countries, congressional attention from 3 representatives demanding federal hearings. Her name was trending globally with hashtags that would haunt her forever. First National Racism with 2.1 million tweets, Boycott First National with 890,000 mentions. Patricia Henderson racist with over 500,000 tagged posts calling for her head. She had achieved immortality as the face of institutional racism, broadcast globally as the symbol of everything toxic in American banking. Ms. Henderson, Marcus said, his voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to vibrate through the building's steel skeleton. You have 60 seconds to explain why this board shouldn't terminate you immediately and pursue personal damages for the destruction you've caused. The silence stretched like a piano wire about to snap. Patricia's voice emerged as barely a whisper. I never meant for this to happen. You never meant what? Victoria Anderson's words cut like surgical steel. To be racist? To humiliate our CEO? To cost us billions? I didn't know who he was, Patricia croaked, the admission escaping like blood from a severed artery. The confession hit the boardroom like a nuclear detonation. You didn't know who he was, Robert Sullivan repeated, savoring each syllable like aged whiskey. So you felt justified discriminating against him because you assumed he was what, exactly? Patricia stood at the edge of a precipice with nowhere to retreat. Any answer would confirm racial profiling. Silence would confirm guilt. Someone who didn't belong, she whispered. The words hung in the air like toxic gas. Someone who didn't belong, James Crawford repeated, dissecting the phrase like a coroner examining cause of death. Based on what criteria did you determine he didn't belong in his own building? Patricia's silence screamed louder than any confession. Marcus closed his laptop with the finality of a judge's gavel. Ms. Henderson, you discriminated against me because I'm black. You saw my skin color and immediately concluded I was a threat, a criminal, someone to be removed rather than served. Each word struck like lightning. That racist assumption has cost this organization billions in damages, triggered federal investigations, and exposed systematic discrimination operating under our corporate banner. You've created the most expensive civil rights violation in American business history. Patricia sat paralyzed, watching her existence disintegrate in real time. Around the table, 12 economic predators rendered their verdict with expressions promising no quarter. Ms. Henderson, Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority of corporate law itself. Your employment with First National Bank is terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the building within the next 10 minutes. Your pension is forfeit. Your stock options are void. Your professional references will reflect termination for cause. The words echoed like death knells in a cathedral. Furthermore, he continued, our legal department will pursue personal liability claims against you for damages exceeding your lifetime earning capacity. You will spend the rest of your existence paying for today's racism. Patricia's world didn't just end. It was systematically demolished, piece by piece, until nothing remained but the echo of her own prejudice destroying everything she'd ever built. Marcus Williams smiled that terrifying smile one final time. Ms. Henderson, congratulations. You've just received the most expensive education in human decency ever administered. Patricia Henderson's professional execution was swift and merciless. Within 47 minutes of her termination, security had escorted her from the building like a criminal being perp-walked for the cameras. Her access cards deactivated, her company car keys confiscated, her nameplate removed from the branch manager's office and tossed into a dumpster alongside 7 years of accumulated career detritus. The video of her humiliation walk went viral faster than her original racist performance. Cameras captured every step of her descent from corporate power to social pariah. The woman who tried to have Marcus Williams arrested was now fleeing her own building in shame, pursued by reporters shouting questions she couldn't answer without further incriminating herself. But Marcus Williams wasn't interested in personal revenge. He was interested in systematic transformation. By 6 p.m. that same day, he'd implemented the most comprehensive anti-discrimination protocol in banking history. Not just policies on paper, but technological warfare against institutional racism. The equity monitoring system went live across all 847 branches simultaneously. Every customer interaction would be recorded, analyzed, and scored for bias indicators. Wait times tracked by demographic. Service quality measured across racial lines. Treatment disparities flagged in real time and escalated to corporate headquarters within minutes. Branch managers discovered their bias scores displayed on dashboards visible to every employee. Poor ratings triggered immediate retraining. Repeated failures resulted in automatic termination. No appeals, no second chances. Discrimination would be treated like embezzlement. a career-ending crime with immediate consequences. The customer advocacy hotline bypassed local management entirely. Any discrimination complaint reached Marcus's desk within 4 hours, complete with security footage, employee records, and recommended disciplinary action. The message was crystal clear. Racism would be investigated at the highest corporate level with maximum transparency. Marcus personally reviewed the first week's reports. 37 discrimination incidents flagged across the network. 37 opportunities to demonstrate that the Patricia Henderson era was permanently extinct. The branch in Chicago fired 2 tellers for racial profiling. The Phoenix location terminated an assistant manager for refusing service to a Hispanic customer. The Atlanta branch cleaned house entirely, removing 5 employees whose bias scores indicated systematic discrimination. Each termination was announced publicly. Each incident became a teaching moment broadcast across social media. The banking industry watched in amazement as First National transformed from discriminatory institution to equality pioneer in a matter of weeks. The technology was revolutionary, but the cultural change ran deeper. Marcus instituted dignity audits conducted by corporate executives dressed casually, testing whether they received equal treatment regardless of appearance. The results were initially sobering. 43% of branches failed their first audit. But failure carried consequences that resonated throughout the organization. Failed branch managers faced immediate suspension. Failed regions triggered comprehensive review. Failed executives found their bonuses tied to bias reduction metrics. The message penetrated every level of the hierarchy. Discrimination wasn't just morally wrong, it was professionally suicidal. Training programs evolved beyond sensitivity workshops into immersive experiences. Employees experienced simulated discrimination scenarios. Managers faced consequences for their staff's biased behavior. Customer service ratings incorporated equality metrics that affected compensation and advancement. The legal settlements came next, but they served justice rather than corporate cover-up. Marcus personally approved $400 million in payouts to discrimination victims, accompanied by public apologies and policy reforms. Each settlement included monitoring provisions ensuring systematic change rather than financial absolution. The Patricia Henderson case became the flagship settlement. Her victims received substantial compensation, but more importantly, they received vindication. Their experiences were validated publicly, their pain acknowledged institutionally, their dignity restored completely. The NAACP praised First National's transformation as a model for corporate America. The Department of Justice closed its investigation after determining that systematic reforms exceeded federal requirements. Congressional hearings showcased First National as proof that institutional racism could be eliminated through leadership commitment and technological innovation. But the most powerful transformation was cultural. Within 3 months, First National's employee demographics shifted dramatically. Diversity hiring increased 67%. Retention of employees of color improved 89%. Customer satisfaction among minority communities reached historic highs. The business results followed the moral transformation. Customer deposits increased by $2.1 billion as communities of color trusted First National with their financial futures. New account openings among minority-owned businesses surged 312%. Revenue from previously underserved markets exploded. Marcus had proven that equality wasn't just ethically required, it was economically beneficial. Discrimination had been costing the bank hundreds of millions in lost opportunities, damaged relationships, and legal exposure. Elimination of bias unlocked previously inaccessible markets and customer bases. The industry took notice. Other banks began implementing similar monitoring systems. Discrimination protocols became standard practice. The First National standard emerged as the gold standard for equality in financial services. Marcus received invitations to speak at Harvard Business School, where his discrimination experience became required curriculum. Banking conferences featured his equality framework as must-attend sessions. The Federal Reserve invited him to advise on industry-wide bias elimination initiatives. But the most satisfying moment came 6 months later, when a young black entrepreneur opened her first business account at the downtown branch where Patricia Henderson had once ruled. The new manager, a Hispanic woman named Rodriguez, treated her like royalty. The tellers competed to provide exceptional service. The entire staff understood that every customer interaction was an opportunity to demonstrate the values Marcus had literally bled to establish. The entrepreneur's account grew into a 7-figure relationship. Her business succeeded beyond expectations. She hired dozens of employees and generated millions in economic activity, all because she'd been treated with dignity instead of discrimination. Marcus watched the interaction through security cameras, smiling that small smile that no longer carried menace. This time it carried satisfaction. Justice. The quiet triumph of a man who'd transformed personal humiliation into institutional reformation. Patricia Henderson's racist legacy had been completely erased, replaced by a culture of equality that would outlast them all. 18 months after Patricia Henderson's professional execution, Marcus Williams received a phone call that made him smile that devastating smile one final time. The voice on the other end was broken, desperate, barely recognizable as human. Patricia Henderson, calling from a convenience store job in rural Tennessee, begging for a reference letter that would never come. "Mr. Williams," she whispered, her voice fractured by months of unemployment, bankruptcy, and social exile. "I know what I did was wrong. I've lost everything. My house, my marriage, my children won't speak to me. Please, I just need work." Marcus listened to her destruction with the clinical interest of a surgeon examining successful cancer removal. "Ms. Henderson, you cost this institution $4 billion and traumatized countless customers through systematic racism. Your consequence is permanent." The line went dead. Justice, finally complete. Meanwhile, the downtown branch had become a temple to transformation. Behind the same marble counter where Patricia had wielded discrimination like a weapon, Maria Rodriguez now served as branch manager, having risen from teller to executive in record time. The woman who'd once been denied service here now controlled a budget exceeding $50 million. But the most powerful change was invisible, yet infinite. Children of color entered without fear. Elderly immigrants felt welcomed rather than hunted. Young entrepreneurs of every background conducted business with dignity intact. The simple act of banking had been liberated from generations of institutional racism. The numbers told an extraordinary story. Customer satisfaction among communities of color reached historic peaks. New business accounts from minority entrepreneurs increased 400%. Revenue from previously excluded markets exploded to $800 million annually. Discrimination had been costing them nearly $1 billion in lost opportunities. Marcus had proven that equality wasn't charity, it was smart business. Racism had been financial suicide disguised as policy. The viral video that destroyed Patricia's existence had evolved into the most studied case in business history. Harvard Business School required every MBA student to analyze the Henderson discrimination incident. The footage served as proof that prejudice carried consequences severe enough to obliterate lives, transform institutions, and revolutionize entire industries. Other banks scrambled to implement similar reforms. The first national standard became the gold standard for institutional equality. Discrimination monitoring systems spread across industries like digital antibodies, eliminating corporate racism. But the most satisfying moment came last week, when Marcus witnessed a young black entrepreneur secure a 7-figure business loan at the exact counter where he'd been humiliated. The new staff competed to provide exceptional service. Every employee understood that this branch had been baptized in the blood of discrimination and reborn through systematic justice. Marcus watched through security cameras as the entrepreneur shook hands with loan officers who would have called security on her 18 months earlier. Her business would create hundreds of jobs, generate millions in economic activity, and build generational wealth, all because she was treated with dignity instead of destroyed by discrimination. Standing in that transformed lobby, Marcus remembered the burning shame of being judged by his skin color in his own building. That humiliation had birthed the most comprehensive civil rights revolution in corporate America. One filmed moment of racism had eliminated systematic discrimination across an entire industry. Now it's your turn. Every day, someone faces the same discrimination Marcus endured. Someone is being judged by appearance rather than character. Someone's dignity is being destroyed by prejudice masquerading as policy. You have the power Patricia Henderson never expected, the ability to document, expose, and destroy discrimination in real time. Record bias when you witness it. Social media has become a weapon of justice more powerful than any court. Share stories that demand accountability. Support businesses that demonstrate equality. Comment below if you've witnessed discrimination. Your story might save someone else from humiliation. Share this video if you believe dignity matters more than prejudice. Subscribe for more stories proving that justice isn't just possible. It's inevitable when good people refuse to stay silent. Because Marcus Williams demonstrated something profound. Sometimes the most devastating response to humiliation is transformation. Sometimes personal pain becomes social progress. Sometimes one person's courage can obliterate institutional racism forever. The question isn't whether discrimination still exists. The question is, when you witness it, will you be the person who ends it?